This video is a part of my full custom digital guitar pedal building course. In this episode, I'll teach you how to use Adobe Illustrator to make a custom graphic that we can get UV printed onto our pedal enclosure. This will all be using Tata Electronics UV printing service, so you don't actually need any UV printing tools in your home. By the end, I'll have given you all the guidelines you need so that you can make sure your graphic will print correctly. This course is also sponsored by PCBWay, a quick, cheap, and well-made solution for getting PCBs custom manufactured. So we have our PCB, the code, our drill schematic done. The only thing left we really have is the actual graphic for the pedal, which luckily is actually pretty fun to do. But there are some little quirks about ordering the UV printing service on Tata Electronics. So I'm just gonna kind of go through those. They have a nice documentation on it. Not really, they have a write-up, like a page just kind of saying what you have to do. I'm not gonna like teach you how to use Illustrator in this. I barely really know the intricacies of it, but I'm just gonna show you the Tata specific UV printing service things that you'll need to do. They do have it written up, but it's nice to just see it, because if you don't do it correctly, you'll obviously screw a lot of things up and you'll waste all this money and blah, blah, blah. So starting off, you can come up here and just search whatever enclosure you pick. So I did the 125B, and then I'm just gonna say UV. So you can see it's like the drill where it's $4, but then gets cheaper the more you add. Down here, it'll just say about ordering it, which I will go over later. But the way to get to that like guide thing I was talking about is you can go to the hardwares and tools, hit enclosures, or just probably anything, because then we just want to hit this enclosure UV printing service, and then this will pop up right here. So you can read through this. You actually absolutely should read through this. I am going to go over a lot of it, but the first thing to do would just be to see which enclosure you got and then download the Adobe Illustrator file for it. If you don't have Adobe Illustrator, you can use Affinity Designer, but from what I've heard, and they say here, it's not like directly supported. There are a few videos that I can link, or maybe one video I think of somebody showing how to do that. But Adobe Illustrator works great. So I'm going to teach that here. You can just like do a subscription for a month or something and get it. It's not horrible, but yeah, just download the Adobe Illustrator file. And while you're at that, scroll down a little bit and download this roll-in swatch. It is something that we will need for colors and things. So definitely get that too. So now here I am in my template. This is nice. They just have it with the exact millimeters and the specific layers that you need. You'll see here we have white, color, and gloss, the varnish or matte gloss. That is an additional service that you can order through Tata. If you just search up here something like gloss, you'll see that it is an additional price, so an additional $2 unless you order 50 plus, then it's $1. And this will order the gloss, and then you have to say that on the checkout. And then that's where I think you pick what type of gloss you want. For this pedal that I had done, I did use the gloss, the varnish gloss. It looks great. It is obviously extra money. I would say that if you're just kind of making a one-off thing for yourself, might as well get it. It'll last a bit longer, kind of having that top part of it, but it's not needed. I've also done some without it, and it looks great either way. It just might chip away a little bit quicker. Either way, there is a special thing we will have to do with the gloss. Very simple, but a thing we will have to do. But for now, we can just ignore that. So the main thing with this, obviously, that we need to kind of take note of is where our actual knobs and everything are laid out. And I'm just going to show you like a little trick on how to do that within Illustrator if you've never done like exact millimeter measurements within it. Because if you have something like mine where I like write out the text below each knob or something, or your graphic just somehow refers to a button below it to the side or whatever, you will need to know where that is placed and hopefully somehow mark the overall diameter of that knob, LED, foot switch, whatever it is. So first thing I'm going to do is just get our drill schematic right open next to us here. And then we're going to need to just refer to a ton of these. I'll stretch that out so it fits. So coming over in Illustrator, the main tool I will obviously be using to make all these knobs is the ellipse. You can just right click this, select the ellipse tool, and then if I hold shift and place, it'll be a perfect circle. Doesn't matter, don't worry about the size. You don't need to read those little millimeter markings, just let go, and then we can come over to properties and set that. The thing here to note is that the drill diameter is not exactly going to be the whole diameter that you want. That really comes down to the caps that you're going to put over your knobs, or really any of your devices or things like the nuts and washers that sit over it. That's the real thing that we need to keep note of, because obviously those will be a good amount bigger than these actual drill numbers here. So using all of this detective work we've done so far in this course, somehow in data sheets or one way or another, find out what the actual diameter of the thing you have. I have these knob caps that I 3D modeled and designed and printed, which I will link on MakerWorld in the description. But I know if I were to just measure this right here with a caliper, it says they are about 12.7 in diameter. So I'm going to make this right here 12.7. And those will link up and be fine. So how these ellipses work is the center of this will be this X and Y coordinates right here, which is quite helpful. So when we move this, we know that the center is there, and that's the same with all of these. The center will be that X and Y. But the annoying thing is that if you see, I'll place this in the top left, and the top left in Adobe Illustrator is 0, 0, whereas the middle here is 0, 0. There's another annoying thing, which is that when I go down, you'll see my Y gets greater, whereas in here, if you go up, your Y gets greater. So the little trick that I always do is I'll just put some object I have in the center, this ellipse, and now we can see what our 0, 0 on the drill schematic is in Adobe Illustrator, and then just do some very simple math. Right here we can see we have 31 as our X, 58.5 as our Y. And then that just means over here, whatever this value is, we just need to take that X and then add this value to it. So in this case, we do 31 plus negative 20.3. So that would be 31 minus 20.3. I'm going to just get my calculator. 31 minus 20.3 is 10.7. So I'll set this to 10.7. And then since the Y is the opposite, we want to subtract the Y value from this. So the Y is 58.5, and then I will subtract 38.1, and I get 20.4. So let me just put 20.4, and there we go. So that's placed exactly how this is. You might be thinking, why can't I just take a screenshot of this and overlay it? And it's a good thought, but you'll very quickly see why that won't work. And that's because, as they say here, the form is for illustration purposes only, so it's not exact at all. Like, this is not at all the same even ratio of resolution. If your graphic doesn't like super need to be exact, this could be a quick way to just quickly kind of know the general place where the knobs are. I have done that before. I've made some graphics that are supposed to just kind of be a cool image overlaid, but this is quick enough, so might as well do it. Another thing I should have done is not put this on our color layer or any of these layers. So I'm going to add a new one, and I'll just say like drill, I don't know. Put that at the top, and then I'm going to move this ellipse in there so we can get that all off of color and just turn this off and on when we want. We will want to hide this or something or delete it and do a separate version when we turn it into data, but for now it's totally fine. So that's it for placing them. I'm not going to go over myself doing all of them because it's the same thing for each of them. So hopefully that makes sense and you can set those up. Now the next thing is dealing with colors. So here's this final version that I used for this. You can get this in the description if you want to use it for some reason. But I'm just gonna, instead of like showing me make all of this, I just wanted it to look cute and have stuff from the course and audio programming things. But there are a few things I'll show that you have to do if you were to make something like this. So one thing I did that made my life very easy, but obviously is at the price of not as cool of a design, is that this is just completely black and white. So for this pedal, I just ordered the 125B that was already white, and then I just had to print the black over it, so I didn't have to worry about doing some of the things that I'll show that you need to do. I did have the gloss layer, which has this weird color, which I'll show later, but yeah, if you are just trying to do a pedal that is just black, then it's a lot easier. But the other stuff with color is not like a lot harder. It's just like a little extra step we have to do. But one thing that you'll need to do for all of these images, text, everything, is you have to vectorize them, because that's how these machines kind of program and use and paint on everything. Basically, like, here is this random Apple Music logo I have, and right now this is not vectorized at all. You would know if it is because you can take each individual aspect of something. Like here, you can see how these aren't touching that, so this is actually its own object that I'm able to move, whereas obviously this is just one full complete thing. So one of the main ways to do that is this image trace. This won't be a great solution for a lot of things, but In this case, I wanted everything to be black and white, so I can just hit this black and white here. And then if I just change this threshold to be more or less, you'll see that'll start to do this. In this case, this was like a pretty low resolution image, so it's having kind of weird distortion, but you get the idea. Now, if I were to hit expand here, now this is vectorized. Everything is still like grouped together, but if I come over here and select this selection tool, I should be able to grab this. But then you'll notice that there is all this white, and this comes back to the color thing. So one of our layers here you'll see is white, and that means that literally everything in your image that is white needs to be on this layer and cannot be in the color layer. So in the case of this would not work at all. I don't know exactly what wrong it would produce, but it would not be good. So one thing I like to do, since if I were to do this a lot of times, so let's take, I have all these little icons of things. Okay, Instagram logo for some reason. So now let's do that same thing, image trace. I can make that a little better. There we go, hit expand. And now this will also have produced this white right here. So what I typically do after doing all that is I'll just select that white. Since this is like pure white, they're the exact same shade of the exact same color, and I can come down to select same, fill color, and now it will select all those other whites, and I can just hit delete. So now we just should have this right here, and you can check by just kind of moving some other object over them, and that'll work great. Say that you didn't have a white background like I do, and you actually needed maybe this to be white. Well, then we come over here and we obviously just need to move that to the white layer. So I could maybe just Command X and then select this and Command V. So now we have this white right here. You can't really see because I have white on that layer, but this is just the white. And now this is where we have to deal with swatches, which are just like different colors. And that's where we have to upload that other .ai file that we had gotten, the Rolla VersaWorks. And we can do that by just going to Window, hitting swatches, and then this one already has it. But if you come down to this library and then you hit other library, you can now select that file. So I can come here, select the Rollin one, and it will open those swatches right here, which then they should just be listed down there. So if you just kind of hover over them, you'll see which each one should be. You can just look at these ones here, and you'll see one that says RDG white. So this one, you just have to have your white object selected. So all the whites in the white layer, and then just click this, and now that will work. It won't look white, but it will be the correct thing that you need for the UV print to work. On the topic of white, another thing that you will have to do, which they have a really good example of this here, is if you have a dark petal. So if you order one that has a black background or maybe just some other dark color, if you were to put bright images on top of that, it will look like this. So what you have to do is put a white undercoat. So just take that exact, say that this guitar was the exact examples of this. So say the guitar was like this orange and the pedal this time was black. I can come down here. I'll make that just a different color just to make it look better. Okay, so say this is that color, and now I have this black pedal in the background. Well, what I want to do is just copy that layer, put it on the white. Obviously, you'll want it to match up. There we go. And now I'll just need to make the thing on the white layer, obviously that RDG white. There we go. So now if I took off this color, you'll see that I have that guitar under there with the correct white. So the next thing is about overlapping colors. This again just comes down to the process that happens when you UV print. But say I have this folder, for instance, and I'm just going to duplicate that and say that this folder was red and this one was blue, and I had them overlaid like that on top of each other. This would not work. Or it would print, but it would have unwanted results because it would print this blue and then it would print the red over it, and these colors would get jumbled, and this would probably look weird. I'm not exactly sure, but it wouldn't work. So what we need to do is actually cut out the part that overlaps so that it just doesn't exist at all. And that's very easy to do in Illustrator. So I can just select these two, and we want this Pathfinder tool. I don't know if it's default shows there, but you can probably come down here, say Window, and here we go, Pathfinder, or Shift Command F9. So then we have this Pathfinder window, and the quickest way is you can just hit merge. So now if I move this red, you'll see the blue doesn't have that, and it will just look exactly how it did, but there will not be any overlapping colors. Another thing is you need your Illustrator file set up in CMYK mode instead of RGB. I honestly don't know enough about color stuff to tell you anything why that is or what that changes, but make sure you have that set. Another thing I'll just show real quick is if you have text like this, you also need to vectorize text. So say, for example, I come here and I have some text. Right now, this is just a text object or whatever, so it's not vectorized at all. I can't take each individual letter and do anything like I can here. So what you have to do is select it, right click, and hit create outlines. And now this will be vectorized. Make sure if you're doing this, either make sure that it's good and you like it, or I would just create a backup, maybe an entire backup layer or just that exact one, because now I can't go in and easily edit the text or the font, or I can't do it at all, in fact. So I would create a backup, don't do destructive editing, and that should be fine. So now the gloss layer, basically we have to do the same thing as we do with the white layer, but it's even a little bit easier. Because say you just wanted your entire image to be gloss, you can just duplicate everything in the color layer. Like I can come up here, say duplicate color. Imagine this was their blank one. Obviously I already did this, but I could just delete that. And as long as it is named the correct thing, so you can say gloss -V or M, whether you want the glossy or the matte. And now I just have to select all of these, no matter what color they are. I know mine's black and white, but you just do that. We go back to our swatches, go there, select that, or if you've had them added, and now you just find this RDG gloss and it will make that all there. It's seeming like for this object, it is selecting the swatch for the actual fill, whereas I want it to be the stroke. So maybe that's just something to keep note of. Some of them might fill in things, so you'll get these unwanted results. So you'll need to select it and actually fill in the stroke instead of the fill. So here's this fun example. This is one of the first petals I UV printed on. This is a joke one for a friend. He really likes the Goofy movie. But you'll see here everything is vectorized and not overlapping at all. So letters like this are actually cut out at the bottom. That's just the white layer there. But yeah, nothing intersects completely. And then here I ended up just duplicating everything and then putting white under there, and it worked. I haven't honestly done a color petal in a while. I really like just the black look, but maybe this is the way for the color to just put the white underneath. It's a pretty light blue petal, so I didn't need to do it for the dark reasons, but I think I was just confused at the time with things like the skin color, and it did come back like a little red, like these ones here. But yeah, this totally worked. The eyes and everything are super white when it printed and everything. So maybe that's one solution, is just to put a white layer of your whole thing. I'm not totally sure, but it worked for me here. And I even had this in RGB, which is probably honestly why the colors are just like a little bit off. So I think I definitely should have fixed that and noticed. In terms of saving everything, you don't upload the .ai file. What you need to do is export this as an Adobe PDF. You can just select that here. So I'll just select coarse petal, replace that because I had it. And then I guess selecting high quality print or the default is probably fine. Export that. And it should just look like probably just all the gloss if you put the gloss on it, and that's good. Here, the reason you could see the white, if you remember, I had duplicated that. That was just testing stuff. Obviously, this is all testing stuff, but yours will probably just be totally white, like the one I just showed you, or totally this color like this here. This is all just that. In this case, I would have probably hit save as and made my sort of copy of this that I actually want to distribute, and then done things like come here and delete that icons layer just so I can only submit those three, and then export that again. And then to just make sure everything is fine, because I know it's kind of nerve-wracking, you're spending your money, you can just go to that PDF file and do right click, open with Illustrator, and it should pop up with all your layers. This was before I deleted the icons, but yeah, it should just pop up fine like that, and then you're all good. There are a few more things on here, like how to print on different sides, or just like what to add to your cart. Certain colors, like here, gold and silver, doesn't work. So I would still just always recommend to read through this before you do anything. So now if you actually want to order this, you need to have in your cart all of the different things. So like I would need to have added that original UV service here. So I would add this. You will have to add extra ones if you want to print on the sides. And then I would also need to add the gloss. So here's the extra gloss, and then 125B drill, I would need to add that. Plus if you want anything on the lid. And now we can come over to the drill tool, and we already have that drill template here, but you'll need to start your new UV template and then just call this whatever, course petal, select your enclosure type, select the side it's on. A is just the face of it. And then, yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. Do we have data in the color layer? Yes, 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 yes. And now this is just going to ask you questions to just make sure. So it's saying, do you have the correct stuff from the swatches we do? Do you have any data in the gloss layer? Yes, we did. Did you do this correctly? Yes. Select the type. We'll say varnish. And now this is where you can upload your file, check all of these, and then save the design. I already have that design uploaded like here. I didn't have data in the white layer, so I said no to that, but you might. And then when you actually order and purchase everything, it'll pop up right here in this section. And since I have already ordered all of this, I can't show you exactly how that screen looks, but it will just kind of prompt for you to select if you had gloss, and then it will make sure that you had actually purchased that and the drill. And then you'll just select the template and the UV print, and you can submit that. And then in a couple of weeks, you'll get it. By now, you might already have bought some knobs and things, or I've talked a lot about those right angle knobs, and I have all those SKU numbers. But remember, you also do need a resistor for those LEDs. So if you're just doing that exact PCB we're designing or something similar, make sure you pick up those resistors. I just use 1K ones for the Daisy, and that works great. And then also your audio jacks, your DC jack, foot switch. Again, I will have all the SKU numbers for Tata Electronics of all the ones that I use, but a lot of these you can use your own parts. Just obviously, again, make sure that your diameters and your drill schematic match that. Whoa, your pedal looks so cool. I'm so jealous. I wish I could design something like that. Congrats on getting this far into the course. You just have one more episode, but we're at the point now where you should go ahead and order all of your parts. The next episode is all about putting together all of your parts, so it expects that you've had your PCB delivered and your enclosure and all your different parts and everything. If you're still not sure what exact parts to order, I have all that linked below in the GitHub repository. You can go to the bill of materials in the resources folder. That will show you all the different links to the Tata parts that I bought for my pedal, including the one that we made the custom footprint for. So go ahead, do that, and then the playlist for the full build is linked below. I'll see you there for one last video.